Hello everyone, and welcome to this third article in the series about the swimming rules. And this one's not about rules so much as the conventions that apply at a swim meet. Many of us will be competing at swim meets soon, and some are a bit new to it. But here are some things to keep in mind, and they will help to make the day run smoothly. Now, the first on the list is never approach any official directly. The convention is that all inquiries should go to the announcer's desk. If you have an inquiry, then usually the best thing to do first would be to ask your team manager or your coach about it. They will probably be able to help you. If they can't, then it's better that your team manager takes the inquiry to the announcer. Just imagine that you're the announcer. You don't want all sorts of individuals coming up to you with their frivolous inquiries. And if it's about a particular event, make sure you know the event number and the heat number. Sometimes you will be directed to take scratchings directly to the recorder. Just imagine that you've got one of these jobs to do. You're a volunteer and you're a recorder or a check starter or something like that. It's a very exacting sort of a job. You don't need any distractions, so you don't need all sorts of people coming up to you with their inquiries and their complaints. So all those sorts of things, take those to the announcer. Second one, for the swimmers, keep quiet in the marshalling area. That way you can hear your name called and others can hear theirs. Too much noise in the marshalling area means it gets disorderly. The marshals have to shout above all the noise. It gets very disorderly. These are done in different ways in different places, but some quiet will help however it's being done. Point number 3, the referee's long whistle is also the signal for everyone to immediately keep quiet for the start. That is the swimmers, the parents, the coaches, those in the marshalling area, everyone. Now the marshalling area, as I just referred to, can get a bit rowdy and they might not be listening for the whistle. In a lot of places the marshalling area is placed close to the start end of the pool just for convenience, and so if there's too much noise in there it disrupts the start. The other thing is that some team members and sometimes some coaches get into the habit of giving one last shout of encouragement to someone from their team after the whistle has gone and the swimmers are up on the blocks. They'll claim they're just supporting their team members, but it's really just rude. It disrupts all the other swimmers while they're listening for the start. Point number 4, after your race, exit the pool by way of the nearest side when you hear 2 short whistles, or when the next start is completed, if they are starting over the top. Okay, by the nearest side. Never ever go out over the end. The end of the pool, if the end of your race is also the start end for the next race, then there won't just be 3 timekeepers there. There's also a swimmer lined up for the next event. And at the back of that space there'll be another, probably the next heater lined up in seats along there. So we're getting quite a number of people in that area, and there can also be the chief timekeeper, and at high level meets maybe an inspector of turns. So it can get quite crowded and you don't want to add to it. The other thing is that you're going to climb out dripping wet. You're going to wet all the people in that area and run water all over the concrete. and timekeepers are not going to like skidding around on wet concrete. So, to repeat, when you hear those two short whistles or whenever you're exiting the pool, go out by the nearest side. And I emphasise nearest because especially the novice swimmers, they'll tend to automatically go to whichever side their team tent is on, or wherever mum is, or wherever they left their towel. It all slows things down and gets a bit scrappy, so please try to remember to go out by the nearest side. Point number 5, never walk in front of the timekeepers. Find another way around to the shop or the marshalling area. That's because the timekeepers need to watch starts, they need to watch the race, and they'll be walking forwards and backwards at times. Again, it gets very disorderly. You can get in their way, you can obstruct their view, so the convention is that everybody else except for officials and swimmers being conducted to and from their races stay away from where the timekeepers are. Point number 6, the last one I've got here, says keep enough of the concourse all the way around the pool clear for officials and for swimmers being conducted to and from their events. Now, officials, the judges of strokes, or whoever's acting as judge of strokes, sometimes the referee, has to walk the side of the pool and watch what's happening in the pool. So there needs to be enough space for those to walk, as well as for people who are going to and from their events. And I mean all the way along the concourse. A judge of strokes or an official needs to be able to walk all the way up to the end, to the finish of the race, to check the touches at the finish. They'll also very likely be taking places. So they need to be able to walk all the way up, and if your team has spilled right out over to the edge of the pool and they can't do it, that's just not right. The officials have to be able to get all the way along the concourse. Now at these local meets, small children tend to automatically like to be close to the action, so they'll spill over. I don't like having to hunt them back, but please remember that the officials are not watching where they're putting their feet. The officials are watching what is happening in the pool. And likewise, you'll very often see me galloping backwards because I'm watching for a signal from the chief timekeeper. I don't want to trip over someone else. I don't want to fall on the concrete either. Another thing that tends to happen is sometimes clubs are going through an immature stage where they think rules are for everybody else, and they'll spill right out onto the concrete right up at the finish end and claim that they're merely supporting their teammates. Well, it's just an excuse again to be rude. These conventions are there to ensure that the meet runs smoothly. If everyone misbehaves, it'll just descend into a shambles. Now, swimmers, you might think this is not a school day, but actually I can tell you that to run a swim meet, it requires everything to be in order. It's very difficult if things get disorderly. Now, the funny thing is that you won't find any of these things specifically written in a rule book, which makes it a bit difficult to enforce. But it could come under the heading of things like general misbehaviour, for which disqualifications can be issued. Unfortunately, look, these conventions used to be handed down from generation to generation decades ago, but the turnaround is too quick and things get lost and people don't pass things on, and so these have tended to be forgotten or ignored over the decades. And so I'm trying to remind everyone now that these have always been the conventions at swim meets. It'll make it run a whole lot smoother. So that was nothing about rules in there exactly, nothing about the swimming rules, but the intention is to get back to those very shortly in the succeeding articles. So thanks for watching, everyone. See you in the next one.